Hello and welcome to Spellcrafting, a small project I'm working on to learn Godot. Initially I had planned to show some UI stuff and make some UI stuff, but my focus shifted to something else. I did make some UI stuff and I guess I'll show it here, but my focus shifted to something else because I have the impression that I should change the whole structure or architecture of this project. The problem being then if I create every spell as some sort of separate node, sooner or later this will become very bloated and cluttered and a mess and just hard to organize. So what I attempted for this version is to create some sort of data-driven solution. This means that I'll have some sort of central data bank that contains all the information I need to create a spell. So the system has many different layers to it. It all starts with the spell stats, which, let me show you, here, which are just a bunch of parameters that make up the basic behavior a spell would need. And this by itself could be considered one spell. I would call it a simple spell because it's just going to be one node. But I want to have complex spells, so I will have an array of these and they will be able to reference each other. Now there will be a spell list. This is where the data is actually contained. So for example, here's a spell. But we're gonna make one for the purpose of explanation soon. And then there's the complex spell wrapper, which works sort of like a root or origin for all these spells that's gonna be spawned. This is similar to an entity component system, but not really, because an entity component system usually adds or targets just the root. In this case, the components target each other, so I'm not sure if this would count as an entity component system, but maybe I just made a would be funny if this is just an entity component system by definition. Yes, this one gets past the complex spell stats and then knows what to do with it, or actually knows how to spawn these and set the values and targets and all that. And then there is the spell manager, which contains the whole list, or actually reads the whole list and passes the parameters to the complex spell wrapper, who then knows what to do with it. So let me show you an example on what this looks like. So if we go back to the spell list and we're going to create a new spell, let's call it sword. This is going to be essentially the same thing we did in the last version, because the actual content didn't change. It's just the structure of it. But okay, let's have a new spell called sword. It has a complex spell stats, which is an array of spell stats, and let's say it's for now just one item. And this item is gonna have the sword scene. This by itself does nothing. Does nothing. It just spawns in this sword. So let's see if this works. Hello. Oh, yeah. Here's the sword. It does nothing. It just adds the origin. So let's say we want to add some behavior to it. So let's say we want. I hate the UI sometimes. So let's add some teleport to player, for example. And this teleport to player will be a self trigger. And it's gonna be, let's say, a cooldown of 1 second. The target here is 0, which is the first item. And the first item is the sword. So if we do it now, it appears, and every second it spawns towards me. Alright, this is something that we could theoretically build upon and add more spells and behaviors to it, but it's still a very early thing, and a lot of spells seem to have broken with this. But what I wanted to show is the concept and the idea of something that I'm working on, and I think that's fine. But I also want to share some thoughts about this project and where this is going, because I've somewhat overcomplicated this problem in a way. So this also leads to just some thinking. One thing that I want to mention, or like I'm thinking about, is when I started making this series, which is just 2 videos with this one, I called it Spellcrafting because I thought, okay, I know I have an idea that I'm working towards. This is gonna be the kind of game I want to make, and I sort of regret that. Sure, it might become that kind of game, but for now I like to consider this whole thing more of a coding adventure, or just making features, you know, this idea of making something that could be utilized for another project. Because this is one thing that I've created with this is, if I were just to rename a couple of things, this could be just a data-driven structure for any sort of thing, let's say for abilities in general that I could attach to potions, to enemies, to whatever an ability might be in a game. Or you could use the same system to create enemies and variations of enemies and something like that. So in a way, I like to rethink this as a coding adventure that was fun to do. And if anyone is interested on how I actually made this, or somehow stumbled upon this video because they have this sort of problem, then feel free to let me know that you want to know how this works. I would love to make another video that goes into details. I just don't think that it's gonna happen for now. But either way, I would like to still make videos about this project, but let's just not think of this as I'm making a game. Yeah, because I just want to document this learning process, and yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to mention. Thanks for watching. See you next time.